When you have to shoot, shoot, don't talk.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for episode 27 of the Trap House Podcast. My name's Justin Jett, and today's special guest is Casey Shoopman of the Management Advantage TV show. He's a great guy, full of knowledge. He's been at it for a long time. We're going to sit and talk with him. He's going to share some stories. But before we do that, I want to mention that Fur Takers of America has their online adventure auctions coming up at the end of this month, July. They normally do this bidding live at the national convention, but since that's been postponed due to the COVID situation, they're doing it online style this year. Go to their website, follow the links, and you can see what's up for grabs as far as different adventure auctions. They got one on deer hunting, one turkey hunting. The one that really interests me, and I would love to bid on myself, would be the Northern Maine marten and fisher trapping experience. Sounds like a blast. But details for each one of these trips is online, furtakersofamerica.com. So check them out. Plan a little trip. Use that vacation time up. Do something cool like that. Just want to show them some support. Also, got to give it up to our sponsors, J3 Outdoors. That's j3o.com, makers of the Hags bracket. Great products you can stand behind, American-made stuff. And also Top Lot Stretcher Company. Got to thank them for sticking with us. They got a website, toplotstretcherco.com. Website's full of all your trapping necessities and needs to get going. And they also make a wonderful adjustable stretcher that we like to use. Also, don't forget about HoosierTrapperSupply.com. We got starter package deals for people getting going. All your needs and wants for the trap line. Of course, our famous Top Dog Predator bait and line of lure that Charlie makes. It's good stuff. Check out our website. That's HoosierTrapperSupply.com. All right. I think that covers everything. Let's dive into the interview. Thanks. All right. We got Casey Shoopman here. He's going to sit down and tell us his whole life story.
We don't have enough time for that, guys.
But we do want to hear how you got started trapping and how you came to be today as far as your show and kind of your credentials and your professional background.
Okay.
All that good stuff.
Man, I don't even know where to start. I guess I got started in the trapping world mainly because of the business that I was in. I started filming, editing, and producing for a show on the Outdoor Channel back in 2004, 2005. And the show was called The Management Advantage. And, you know, it's solely based on wildlife management. And one of the key ingredients to good wildlife management is trapping. And we started filming some episodes with some guys, mainly with Robert Waddell. A lot of you guys know who Robert Waddell is. Probably one of the most hardcore guys that I've ever met in the trapping world. He's hard-headed, but he's really good at it, and he knows it. And just basically started filming some stuff with them. You know, I trapped whenever I was younger. Me and Dad, we did some coon stuff, just basically as something else to do outside. And never really got into the coyote stuff, mainly just because we didn't really have a lot of knowledge of it. And anyway, started following Robert around and filming him. And if anybody knows Robert, he's extremely well versed with coyotes. And you know, with that territory comes along, you know, videoing, editing, and you're with that person for so long, you kind of learn what they're doing. And he was willing to teach, and just kind of picked it up through there. You know, you basically need to learn how to trap to learn how to edit the video about trapping. You can't just be some guy from inner city and have no interest in it, you've got to know how to do it. So I kind of learned how to trap that way, and it really helped shorten my learning curve because, I hadn't ever trapped a coyote in my life, and ended up buying some coyote traps, and just through watching him and editing and being there. And the first time I set coyote traps, it was just boom, started going. One thing led to another. I got decent at it right out the gate, and through word of mouth, somebody told somebody in Alabama, that's where I was living at the time, that I was good at trapping, and he had 1,200 acres and wanted me to come trap it. So I went and trapped it, and then the next thing you know, I've got so much work that I don't even know what to do. And that's probably been close to 15 years ago now. So like I said, one thing led to another, and now we're full bore into it. And, we've kind of added a little more of the trapping videos into it, mainly because there's just a lot of dead space out there as far as good quality knowledge and well edited videos. That was one of my things whenever I first started getting into it was, YouTube or just trying to find information out there that I didn't know about. And you guys know as well as I do, there's a lot of stuff out there, but there's not a lot of like decent stuff out there, stuff that you can actually sit down and watch. So I kind of decided we needed to go down that route and show some really good quality edited videos. And not necessarily, we try to show people how to do things, how to make a set, how to pick out locations, things like that. But I think more importantly, is being able to inspire someone to go out there and do it. You can teach somebody all you want through a video. Watching a video is really hard to learn, but if you give them the inspiration to want to do it, I think that really fuels the fire with them and gets them started. And then maybe they, have an uncle or there's this professional trapper in their part of the world, and they go ride around with him and they get some really good hands-on experience. But just basically that inspiration of, man, that looks like that's a ton of fun, and getting those people out or maybe getting their kid involved into it. And that's what really kind of gets me going with it.
So Casey, on the Management Advantage, when you guys first started that, there was a few of you involved in that project, correct?
Yeah. And we still have pretty much the main core. Chuck Sykes was the founder. He's now the director of freshwater fisheries and wildlife for the state of Alabama. So he has a little bit less of a role in it, but he can still get away and do some stuff. But he kind of paved the way for me as far as just basically learning the just basic principles of wildlife management. It was kind of like going back to college, following him around for 3 or 4 years. I moved to Alabama, moved out of Illinois, moved down there and started working with them, and he was doing consulting, and it was just a wealth of knowledge from him, but also from everybody that I was privileged to hang out with. Like, when we're going and filming shows, you're hanging out with some people that they've forgotten more than I'll ever know. Mm-hmm. And being able to hang out with people like that has really helped me get to where we are today, basically. But we took the show, like I said, we were on the Outdoor Channel from, I think he started it was around 2002, 2003. We were on the Outdoor Channel until 2011. And they basically pushed the small guys out, and we were definitely one of the small guys. A lot of people think you get paid to have a show on TV, and it's exactly opposite. We're paying a lot of money, and they doubled our airtime in 1 year, and we really didn't know what we were going to do. We were on the cusp of shutting it down, and kind of seeing that there was an opportunity in the digital world, building our website, building Facebook, building our YouTube, and kind of jumped in head first with that. And with zero advertising, it has grown leaps and bounds. I think our first month of viewership was like 5,500 views back in 2011. I think it was the fall of 2011. And I mean, I think right now we're somewhere between 400,000 and 500,000 views a month. So it's blown up, and it's another thing. It's just kind of a word of mouth. People just kind of find it. I think they kind of gravitate to something that's watchable, especially in the digital world. You guys know as well as I do that people are lazy. People want to see something now, and if they get bored with it, they click on the next thing and go to the next. So you've got to catch the audience. You've got to keep them there, and that can be a challenge. But in the trapping world, I think there's a lot of knowledge that's sought after, and if you can capture that audience, you're doing pretty good.
So
kind of rambling, sorry, guys.
You're fine. No, that's outside of trapping. What are some of the other subjects that you enjoy doing the most for Management Advantage?
Well, I'm kind of a seasonal guy. Like when it's trapping season is my favorite. When it's turkey season is my favorite.
Okay.
Of course, whitetail is a big part of the world that we all live in. I love when October and November rolls around. The scenery's awesome. The world smells different, when you step out there and go into it. And I love the habitat management side. Getting a piece of property and kind of starting with a blank slate and taking it to the next level. And in some ways it's kind of extreme, just because I know that there's a lot of things that can be done to turn a piece of property into something that you wouldn't ever think that it possibly could be. And watching, putting that work in, putting that time in and watching it grow, and going out there in October, November, December, and, even into January, and seeing what you've done turn into your vision is really special and near and dear to my heart. I love it. I mean, that would probably be my favorite.
Yeah. The probably some hunters don't realize you were talking about the consulting business, and that there are biologists available to come out and take a look at your property and tell you what to do. Everything from possibly your forest management to managing for wildlife to all aspects of getting the most out of your property, depending on what your perspective is, I suppose.
Yeah,
so essentially your show can replace, to a point, some of the consulting fees, I suppose, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of value in having a qualified individual come out and give a different perspective, or basically like a different eye. Because a lot of times, somebody has a piece of property and maybe they look at it so much that they're not seeing it in the right light. And you have a person come out and they can say, check this out. This is what you need to do. And kind of a light bulb can go off in their head. And I mean, that's fun stuff. And our team, through TMA, we've got several guys located throughout the country that, I mean, that's what they do, is they do a lot of consulting, and they do a lot of hands-on the ground, getting your hands dirty, the work that actually goes into what we do. Because some people just want to consult, a consulting deal where they come in and give them a day and tell them what they think should be done. Other guys actually want the work done. And Tom James is one of those guys. He's right there close to you guys. I mean, he busts it. He does a lot of work for guys around right there, and where he can get to it in Indiana, because he's got a full-time job now, working for Base Camp Country Real Estate, and but he's still, every weekend he's either on his farm or he's on somebody else's doing a new project. And talk about somebody that's a wealth of knowledge. Tom James is a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
So,
and this is probably a little hard to answer, but if you were going to have some property and your perspective was going to be deer hunting, we'll just take deer hunting since it's the big deal. What's kind of the minimum amount of property that you could say that you guys would feel like you could benefit in size? So, I mean, obviously, most people don't have enough money to buy 1,000 acres or 2,000 acres or whatever. But
yeah, and I'm in that same boat with as far as the average guy. You know, I don't have 1,000 acres. I don't have 500 acres. I don't have 300 acres. I don't have 200 acres. I mean, most of the stuff that I'm dealing with is 40-acre pieces.
Okay.
And me and the wife, we're actually in the market right now to buy something. We're doing some looking right now, but I mean, my favorite tract to hunt's a 40-acre piece, and I think you could go. I mean, there's really no limit as small as. I mean, we go as low as somebody in their backyard that has a couple acres that maybe they're not doing anything with, and maybe they watch our show and they get a little bit of an idea, and they say, "Oh, we've got an acre back here that we could turn into wildlife habitat." You know, that's kind of cool. I've got some stuff right here behind my house that I'm getting ready to do. So there's really no limit as far as size of property. I mean, we did a big project last year with Tom right there close to you guys. It was just a 17-acre piece of his property. Granted, he bought 50 acres, but 17 acres of it was a tillable field that we turned it all into wildlife habitat, and he took it to the extreme. I mean, Tom's an engineer's mind in himself. So, I mean, he had it all down on a piece of paper. He had it all measured out, planted trees and clover fire breaks and native grasses and food plots and deer stand or, shooting house strategically placed and screening areas so you could walk in and out of it. I mean, the possibilities when it comes to land management are endless, and it's just one of those things that you've got to look at it with a creative mind and a creative eye, and don't get set in your ways. I mean, there's a lot more to do than just a food plot. There's so many things that you can do, and it doesn't all have to be about deer. I mean, you can do quail, you can turkeys, bees. There's so many things that you can concentrate on, but just getting into the habitat management realm, whenever you start thinking about, maybe you just start out thinking about deer. Well, you're positively impacting a lot of other species when you get into that. And the farther along you get into it and you start researching, and like, wow, look at all these bees that are out here in this native warm season grass stand that we planted some forbs in. I mean, we're propagating bees and we didn't even really try, So it's something that there's so much knowledge out there and so much that you can learn that you really don't ever stop learning with it.
We were trapping down in Mississippi a few years ago, and I guess I was kind of had an eye opener on your end of the business. We were on a high fence deer camp, high end, super fancy lodge, the whole deal. I think it was 1,100 acres. And the consultant actually came in while we were there. You know him, and I can't remember his name. His name escapes me. Anyways, he was managing for every aspect of that property, from the timber to it was a hunting place, but he was managing every aspect of that property. I think that I think it was I'm sure there was a budget, but it didn't appear to be a budget at this point.
Yeah.
One of them, So we don't really have deer camps like that up here in the upper Midwest. That thing is a thing in the South that is amazing, is the deer camps and how serious that is taken down there. So
yeah, I tell my wife all the time. I said, we'll never know what money is.
Yeah,
because we run across some clients and just you see things that you're like, man, that's the dream property right there, and you're hired to come in and trap coyotes and whatever. But yeah,
This
I have a lot
was
of, it's a lot of fun to get to see those types of places that you're
Yeah.
talking about. It's like, wow, this exists.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and
this lodge was over the top, and no one actually even lived there. The caretaker, who was from a different state and moved down there to be the caretaker, lived outside the fence. You know, so
yeah,
it was
that's
crazy.
a vacation property.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it
Yeah.
was. A weekend property, probably I'm sure tax deductible for a corporate deal. So
Yeah.
but-
Highly
So
possible.
how many times do you get the call and said, "My deer are getting killed off by coyotes, and you got to come and save me"?
More than you would think. The biggest thing is like somebody will call me and say they've got 2,000 acres in central Alabama. And, they're asking me questions, and their biggest questions, well, how many do you think you're going to catch? And I'm like, I don't, that's not a good answer. There's never a good answer to that. They want you to say 50, but honestly, average on that piece of property in 10 days, it depends. I mean, I've had some extreme cases where I caught a whole bunch, and then extreme cases where it just depends on the habitat. It depends on the population at the time you're there. There's a lot of factors, but the biggest thing is they're like, if you tell them you're going to catch, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12, just to throw a number out there. And they're like, oh, well, that's not going to cut it. We've got at least 50 coyotes out here. You can step out here and you can hear 30 of them every time you step outside. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Well, 3 coyotes can sound like 10. So divide your number by about 10. And that's probably how many you actually have.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's you get some clients that you think that, or they think you got to kill every single one of them, but as well as I know, you're not going to kill every single one of them out there. You can't do it. And there's a happy medium in there. We're doing predator management 99% of the time. Everything that you take out of there is going to do some good. I think timing has a little more of a factor involved than numbers. Especially for wildlife management. Most of our clients are hiring us at strategic times of the year, right ahead of a nesting season, for turkeys and quail, or like in Alabama, some of those places down there, their fawns are dropping as late as, September, October. Most of our fawns are already on the ground here, and, we can't trap in the summertime here, but Alabama, you can. So I try to get an idea with each property them on. We try to get some trail camera data, years down, down the line or in advance, to where I kind of have an idea of when that specific property is dropping fawns, and I'll either go in there right ahead or right whenever those fawns are being dropped, and we'll take out that resident coyote population right then and give those fawns, maybe it's only 3 weeks, maybe it's a month, maybe it's 2 months before more move back in, but you're letting them get on their feet, and you're letting them get to where they can escape a predator more than just right then. And I think that time of year, I think a coyote actually, it's kind of like ice cream to them. I think they know when fawns are dropping, and I think they specifically hunt fawns out during that time of year. Easy prey for them, tastes good, and there's usually lots of them, especially down there. I mean, they've got a really high deer density in some areas, some places not so much, and that's whenever a lot of my clients are calling us to come in there and do it. Sorry, I was rambling right there.
No, you're fine. The idea of that control, Casey, when you're trapping these coyotes, in what a fur trapper would consider the off season. So what methods have you? Do you find it significantly different than winter trapping, I guess is the question. How do you approach that?
To be honest, I would rather trap them in the state of Alabama. In all the work that I've done down there, I would rather trap them in the summertime than than say February, March.
Okay.
You know, you're going to sweat through about 4 pairs of clothes that day, or every day. So you're going to want to carry a bunch of water. But honestly, I think coyotes are easier to catch that time of year. Very rarely do I have a trap that a set of tracks walks by and they don't investigate and they don't get caught. And 90% of the time they are pad deep, just dive off in it. You know, I think February, March, you kind of run into that a little bit of the breeding season on a coyote. You know, you're probably going to catch more transients that time of year. But for down there in the summertime, if you're on a piece of property and you're catching those resident coyotes and your goal is to, you know, up your deer numbers and save fawns, man, you can do some really good work during July and August and September down there. I don't know if it's the coyotes that are, you know, territorial during that time of year. I know they can't be necessarily that hungry because there's so much for them to eat. But you know, you use a good fresh bait. I mean, a dirt hole. I mean, everybody asks me if I experiment a bunch, but a dirt hole 99% of the time for me is money.
Yeah.
Fresh type bait, some good urine and a good glandler during that time of the year, and like I said, very rarely do you have a coyote that starts digging or walks by the set or just sidesteps it. It's usually he walks by, he's caught, or she. So, I mean, the locations may be a little bit different. I don't tend to set every intersection or tons of locations in the summertime. I do a lot more looking than I do setting. Heck, I may be looking the first day and never setting anything. And so I'll set, you know, if I find sign during the summertime, whether it's a track, and normally down there in the summertime, it's raining almost every day. Popcorn showers, just depends on the time, you know, what kind of a weather pattern they're in, but I do run into a lot of rain. So you normally will find a fresh track, or the best sign is a fresh pile of scat. And in the summertime, the more you do it, you'll notice that scat doesn't hang around very long, whether it's dung beetles or just the sun and the heat breaking it down. I've noticed, you know, those fresh piles of scat are usually there for like 2 days. So if you find that pile, he's usually right there. And that's a first or second night catch 90% of the time. So I'm used, like 99% of the time I'm setting, unless it's a spot that I know I catch a coyote here every single time I'm here. Most of the time I'm setting on sign. And then, you know, we're usually there for 10 to 14 days, and I'll inspect the property every single day as you're checking that line. And, you know, if new sign shows up, I'll go ahead and set up again. But you can do some serious damage that time of year.
Yeah. So you don't have an issue with pulling them off whatever their prey animal might be if you're on location.
Yeah. I mean, what do you explain that?
Sometimes when you got an animal that's committed to a certain food source, or they can be more focused on that than maybe if you get caught in a trap.
Yeah. I've just never really had an issue with pulling them off. Because really that time of year, there's so much, like you said, there's so much for them to eat. If anybody's guessed what they're eating any given day.
Right.
I mean, one of the places I trapped a couple years ago, they had a big watermelon patch, and this was 2,000 acres. And the whole first day I'm driving around, and every pile of coyote scat was like red and seeds all over in it.
Yeah.
Like, where is this coming from? And the landowner didn't tell me that he had a watermelon patch all the way on the south end of the property, but there was all the way on the north end. I mean, over 2 miles away, nothing but watermelon seeds and scat. And anyway, I ended up finding the watermelon patch, and it was just every watermelon was busted open by coyotes. And you drop in a dirt hole right there next to them. And I don't know if it's necessarily hunger that you're going after that time of year. Obviously, we're using a fresh type bait, but I think you kind of take advantage of the greed and the territory instinct of them that time of year. So they may not even want to eat what's in the hole, but they like, well, I don't know who that is, but he came up in here and buried something on my road, and he dives right off in it.
Yeah. Super territorial.
So I don't necessarily try to read in too much as far as what they're eating that time of year. I know they're there and they're going to try to steal anything that I put down the hole. To an extent, I'm not going and using a wintertime bait during the summertime. You get too much rolling. You've got to use a highly preserved bait that time of year. Basically, it's so hot, you're dealing with so much rain 90% of the time, ants. But like I said, that's where a good glandler and a good urine, in combo with all of that really helps.
Yeah. I remember you sharing all that online about the watermelons.
Yeah.
I found that real interesting because we don't really have a lot of that.
Yep.
Going on around our area or where we're at in deep woods on trips and stuff. So it's just neat to see.
Some of the farmers up here that grow sweet corn, the coyotes are rough on sweet corn.
Oh yeah.
As the year changes, they change their diet, and they clearly take advantage of whatever's available to them. So yeah, they eat a lot of vegetables and fruit in the summertime for sure. So
yeah, I did there's a big area like in what county would that be? It's it's in central Alabama. They grow a bunch of peaches there. It's up around Clanton. Dadgummit. Oh, it's right there on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, I trapped a place up there, and there's all these peach orchards around, and I was there about the time the peaches were getting ready, and it was the proverbial term you've heard a bunch of people say. Every scat had peach seeds in it.
Yeah.
And I caught the heck out of them around those peach orchards. There's a lot of persimmons down in Alabama. Usually along every field or every road, there's persimmons falling. September time frame, and that's usually a money spot. And like I said, you don't have to have persimmons down the hole, but you can catch them that time of year. Do you guys have a fresh type summertime type bait that you guys make?
I can't say that we really do. No.
Gotcha. Not really a big market for it, I guess. Your only market really is the ADC guys that are doing that summertime work.
Right. Guys like yourself and we're close to Indianapolis and there are guys, we've got full-time nuisance trappers, but most of it is non-coyotes. It's mostly, raccoons, squirrels, moles, that kind of stuff. So these guys do quite well, but it's not that predator management perspective per se, like yourself. So.
Yes, sir.
Casey, how do you some people can relate to this, I think, if they've been in the situation. So how do you relate to the client that wants to tell you what to do?
I had a client like that one time. I won't say any names because we're great friends now and I still work for him. Guy bugged me for years to come and trap his place. And schedule was full. I couldn't get in there, and I finally had an opening. So I called him up. I said, hey, I can come down and trap your place. He's like, all right. And he knew the prices. He knew what I charged. And I get there, and he had a couple of his buddies, and they thought they were going to strong-arm me and invited me in for a cocktail and talked me up. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he says, well, I'm not going to pay you your daily fee.
What?
I said, all right. I stood up, stuck my hand out, and I said, nice to meet you. I've got other people that will pay me what I'm asking. It's not a lot. Probably should be charging you more. And, well, what do you mean? I said, but you've bugged me for years about coming and doing this, and now here we are. I mean, I drove 800 miles to come down here and do this, and now you're trying to stiff me. And then he changed the subject. Well, let's go drive around and look at the place first. All right. So we drove around, and it was a quail plantation. That's what it was. And so it was all open prairie ground, scattered pines, low basal area, roads going all through it, and they're putting quail out all summer long, trying to build their population. And there was coyote scat from one end of this place to the other. And we rode around a little while. I was like, so if you ain't paying me daily rate, what are you paying me? Well, I'll pay you $250 a coyote. I said, write it down on a piece of paper. Let's go. He goes, whoa, wait a minute. Well, how many are you going to catch? I said, I don't care. Write it down, bud. We'll go. Give me 10 minutes. Poor guy ended up paying me triple what he would have paid me if I'd have charged him by the daily rate. And he tried to stop me at day 6. He tried to stop me and tried to get me to pull my traps. I said, absolutely not. We're going the full 10 days. Anyway, one of his buddies came and rode with me on about day 8. And he said, man, you got him good. He is so mad at you right now, but he's loving it. He said, he's got the money. He's got the money, but he said, this man, he said, he's the kind of guy that if you go golfing with him, he likes to win the bet before you even tee off.
Yeah.
And he said, you got him good.
That is a great story. That's in this business, you don't hear a lot of news stories. That's a good one. So yeah, that's a great story. I appreciate that.
And ever since then, he has never, and I hated to take the guy's money, but there comes a point in time you got to prove a point. And I think he had been burnt in the past is why he was wanting to do that. He's told me since then, he had a guy out there that he came out there for 2 weeks and charged a daily rate, and he caught a gray fox and a bobcat. That was all he caught. And I'm like, how did you not absolutely annihilate coyotes? It's too easy. I mean, it's like, here's your sign. And I still to this day, I love trapping. I trap it twice a year. He invites me out every time I call him. You ready to trap coyotes? Yep. Come on whenever you need to. So it all ended up good. And we still laugh about it to this day, but that was a fun one.
Yeah. Yeah. We were on a deal in Tennessee. This was a friend deal, no charge, nothing like that. But we basically had to educate the landowner and the leaseholder, to get through it. It was kind of like, why don't you set your traps here? Because I saw a coyote there. It's like, well, that's a random location. You may have seen one there, but it's a random location. We're not doing that. So after a few days, he left us alone. But
the hardest thing, like if you're going in blind, as far as getting started out in the trapping world, and you don't have a reputation, or nobody really knows, or if somebody just kind of calls you and they don't know you from Adam, or nobody referred you to them,
right?
The hardest thing is convincing that landowner that it's worth the money. They look at a daily rate and they're like, well, holy cow, that's a lot of money. But okay, put yourself in my shoes. I'm going out there for 10, 12 hours a day. If it's in the summertime, you're sweating, you feel like you're about to pass out because it's 105 degrees out. Or even if it's in the wintertime and it's Alabama to be 30, 40, 50 degrees, but you're putting in the work. You're busting your tail because you like to catch coyotes, and they don't realize how much work goes into it, or how much expense you have in equipment, the right equipment, the experience and the know-how that you've built up over the years. I mean, it's just like hiring a lawyer or a land consultant to come in and give you advice on your property. I mean, we're there, boots on the ground, putting in the work, and I mean, it's worth the money. I mean, there's nothing else you can say. If you've got land, you have an issue, it's worth the money to hire a professional trapper to come in and get it done. No bones about it.
Yeah. So what other stuff do you trap outside of coyotes, Casey?
We do a little bit of everything. I mean, if a guy's got beavers, otters, of course, raccoons, possums, skunks, bobcats. I don't do a lot of just beaver jobs. I'll usually refer those. I mean, I can catch beavers, but I'd rather catch coyotes. You know, it's just kind of my cup of tea. But I can catch beavers. It's just not something I love doing. It's a nice change of pace. You're on a big coyote job to have, a few beavers to go catch, but there's just something about catching the coyotes.
Yeah. Doesn't get old.
Never. It never gets old.
You doing anything with wild hogs then too, or not?
We do a little bit. We've got a sponsor out of Arkansas that actually builds a really good trap, and we've done some stuff with that in Texas, and we do some stuff with it in Alabama. It's just the equipment that it costs to go in and do a hog job, to do it right. I mean, because we're using Bull Creek traps. They're remote style. They've got a live feed video system on them. You push a button, you drop the trap. That's really the only way to do it in my mind, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
It just costs so much money to go into a piece and convince a guy that that's how much it's going to cost. I mean, it's better off for them to buy the trap and them manage it, in my mind, rather than me come there for 10 days. And because, pigs they're a different breed. That's a losing battle in my mind. Really all you can do is just beat them back. Especially in Texas. I mean, I've got a place that I coyote trap down there, and I think it's 18,000 acres, and they fly it every week with helicopters. And the pigs have gotten smart to the sound of a helicopter, and they won't run out of the bushes. They just hunker down. You fly it with a helicopter, you don't think there's a pig on it, and you go out there right before dark or right after dark with thermal imagery, and there are pigs everywhere.
Yeah.
That's a whole different animal.
Yeah. You, in fact, on one of your episodes, you were shooting hogs from a helicopter.
Yeah, that was actually on that plane.
Yeah, I believe it was you and Tom James, I think.
Yeah, yep.
Several years ago. But
it was probably 2014, 2013, somewhere around in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's effective. It's effective on certain places. You got to do it at the right time of year, of course. But yeah, you can. They can't hide from you if you've got low brush. You start getting into canopies and leaf matter and trying to find them in that. It's really hard to get them out of it. But if you got some center pivots, you can run them out into it. It gets pretty filthy real quick, and it's fun. I mean, it's fun. I'll give it that. It's every red-blooded American needs to do that once in their lifetime. It's fun. So
what's one of your most memorable catches or days? Or do you have one?
Probably one of the. Well, I don't know. There's a lot, and I can't remember half of them. One of the coolest ones is here in Illinois. Western Illinois University. They're doing a bobcat study, and we trapped a bobcat 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, fall of 18 maybe. And anyway, they come out and they collared them, and the cat still got the collar on it. They came out, tranquilized it, took blood samples, all kinds of stuff, put a radio tracking collar on it, ear tagged your ears, and I still get trail camera pictures of her every week.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
really
cool.
She went on a big jaunt. Within 2 weeks of us trapping her, she was 20 miles north, and she made a big loop. And I actually rode back with the professor about 3 weeks after we trapped her, and we didn't see her, but we triangulated where she was at, and we were within 100 yards of her. She was in a brush pile or something, but she ended up looping back to that property, and I've got pictures of her walking by with squirrels in her mouth, and it's pretty neat. Just to, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that if people, it's one of those things you can show to people that if they think trapping is cruel and we're out to kill them all and be bloodthirsty heathens, that you can actually, if you don't want to kill that animal, you can release it and they can thrive and they're still right there.
Right.
Pretty neat.
I was at the Illinois Trappers Association meet last fall, and some of the people from the that program were there actually had a table set up for talking to trappers and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
It was I think they were both students. I don't know that there was a professor there. They were younger, but
Yeah.
probably
right.
grad students maybe. But
yeah, I think they have some of their master's students that do most of it. The professor will go out and help with the tagging. So it's Professor Jacquus or some, I can't remember. It's spelled Jacqueus, I think. But yeah, that was pretty neat to watch them tranquilize it. And we had a couple of kids there with us, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool!" And then got the drone out when he released it and got her running off into the bushes. So, and she was a real pretty cat too. You always know. I mean, even if she didn't have the collar on, still you'd know her every time she walked by. Just spotted up, beautiful, like a rosette cat.
oh, really?
Yeah, and she was a yearling when we caught her. She only weighed like 13 pounds. But yeah, and I haven't been back to try to catch her again. It's kind of, that farm is kind of out of the loop. We've had such bad weather the past 2 years that I haven't got to do a lot of coyote trapping. So I haven't really went back and set any traps over there, but it'd be kind of cool to, because they said if I caught her again, they put I think it was an FM transmitter collar on her because she wasn't big enough to carry the GPS collar that they had.
Mm-hmm.
They said if I caught her again, they'd go ahead and put the GPS collar on her, and they can pull it up at any time and be able to tell where she's at, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's real cool.
But
They're getting ready to do, or it's actually may have already started, but I don't think it has quite started yet. There's a gray fox study here in Indiana, and they're actually going to solicit trappers for gray foxes. They're actually going to pay for gray foxes that are caught, and then of course they want to put a collar on them or whatever and release them. I don't know if they're going to do that in Illinois or and I know there's some other states involved, but I don't know that Illinois is on that study or not. So I think Indiana's probably got more habitat for grays, but
yeah, I've never seen a gray fox around here, and on any no trail camera pictures, and I've never caught one.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't even hardly have any red foxes around here anymore.
Yeah.
What part of the state are you, Casey?
West Central, Adams County, Hancock County, right in that part of the world. I mean, I've kind of got a soft spot for the reds. If I catch one, I let them go unless they're unless they hurt themselves in the trap. 99% of them get turned back. They're just something it's kind of like the quail. You don't get to see them a lot, so you turn them back. Most of the time, if you see them here, they're in town, living under somebody's barn or somebody's garage and eating cat food off somebody's step and eating their chicken. But
yeah, I always feel so bad. These guys for the fox. These guys call the shop here and they say, "Oh, I got a red fox living underneath my mini barn, and I just don't like it there. I'm worried it's going to do something, and it's not going to hurt a thing."
Yeah.
In most cases, and they want to eliminate this fox. It's like, just leave it alone. It'll, it's not that big a deal. But
yeah.
I think most trappers have a soft spot for them. So.
Yeah. So how's the fur market looking? I haven't really talked to anybody here lately.
I think it's all just because of COVID-19. Everything's basically just at a standstill.
Yeah, nobody really knows.
Yeah, I think once things get up and going again, I think the coyote market is still going to be good.
Yeah,
but some of that other stuff, who knows when that's going to happen? And the the ranch mink sales that have occurred here lately, they're only selling 10-20% of what's offered, and it's so far below production costs that it'll take a while to get that huge stockpile of mink cleared up.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I think, I know it was. It was Guy Gronwald had a video, and he was in China at a retail outlet mall that was basically just fur coat after fur coat store after fur coat store. You may have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying, and he said, one of the things he said, notice there are no traditional mink coats in here, so the style of that is gone. So, I mean, obviously we're in a big transition period, and then of course, we got a worldwide pandemic that's really put a wrench in the mix. So,
yeah.
But I think once things maybe get back to some level of normalcy, that we'll probably just see things generally probably take up where they left off late 2019, maybe.
So it'll probably be 2022 before it gets back normal.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah.
It really is. I don't see this thing improving or going away in the near future for sure. So I think we're in this for a while, and it's going to take. It may take who knows how many years to get those mink cleared up. So
yeah, it'll definitely be drug out past November.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
So are you fur trapping too?
I do a little bit. I mainly do it as a hobby anymore around here. I normally I'm usually deer hunting fairly hard. Through the first week of December, and by then I've usually done all I want to do, or I'm tagged out, or I kind of switch gears around. I try to let the gun seasons clear, and then hit it either right before Christmas or right after. And it's a nice change of pace. Usually it's really brutally cold, but there's something about dealing with cold weather and wax dirt and drinking a beer with your buddy while you're making wax dirt and skinning coyotes and in the dead of winter time. And
yeah,
it's a nice change of pace from the ADC work, and when you can actually catch a coyote that has some fur on him. Even in the wintertime in Alabama or South Texas, they're just it's not even really a coyote. It's mangy dogs, and they don't have any hair. They never carry any hair. You'll catch one here and there that looks decent, but you still even if you skin that coyote and bring him back and put him next to one of these Illinois coyotes, which aren't good by any means, he still doesn't hold a candle to it. But we went to Nebraska right after Christmas this past year, first part of the January, western Nebraska, almost in Colorado, and took a 13-year-old boy out there and my buddy, and man, that was fun. That was brutal weather. We did a video on it.
I watched that one. It did look brutal.
Yeah, it was, the first 3 days we were there, I'm not kidding, it was 40 to 50 mile an hour winds, and it snowed a little bit, not a lot, but it doesn't take much snow on a prairie like that out there to cause drifting. And oh my gosh, luckily it was dry before it did that, and it's kind of sandy out there anyway, and we took wax dirt and we made wax dirt and we threw out a bunch of traps, and we ran into a bad case of mange. We were running over 50% mange.
Really?
Yeah, it was terrible. The coyotes you caught that were good were like just make you giddy and smile and like, oh my gosh, I didn't know a coyote could look that good. Just beautiful. And then the very next one, you're like, how is that coyote alive right now? It's crazy. But we were trapping around some of those feed yards, within the mile section of a feed yard, catching them coming to those dead piles and whatnot. But I'm really interested. I'd like to go back again this winter and see if we had any impact on mange. to see if we reduce the numbers enough to kind of stop the spread. I don't know if we would have an impact. I know we killed probably I think we killed 40 some coyotes out of 1 mile section coming to one spot.
Yeah.
And over half of them were mange. So I don't know if we'll help out with the mange problem out there, but I hope we do. That's a terrible thing to pull up on, especially whenever it's 7 degrees and you're like, I don't even know how you're alive right now. You don't have any hair. And that was probably the worst mange I've ever seen on coyotes out there. But we did really well on the coyotes that were good and skinnable, really well. So
you got those sold?
We did. I unloaded everything I had. I didn't know that the COVID thing was going to hit, but I unloaded everything I had right after our season went out. I had too much stuff, and I was like, I just need to get rid of it. And luckily I did. And so I'm not really sitting on anything right now. But I think we averaged right at $80 on those Nebraska coyotes. Those they were all green. So
we've had guys bring them in here. They would be on a mule deer hunter when they go call some coyotes and shoot them or whatever, and they'd want them tanned. And it's not even the same animal that we have here in the Midwest for sure. I mean, it's just it's a beautiful, So.
Yeah, I mean the color's better, but also the feel of the hair, and you don't realize it until you see it and put it next to. I mean, the best explanation I ever had before I actually saw it with my own eyes was going to the FTA convention, and NAFA's there, and they've got a Western heavy and a semi-heavy and your Eastern coyotes, and they're all next to each other. That's the only way you can really tell.
Right.
But I mean, those Western heavies, it almost feels like rabbit fur, with their under fur. They're just fluff balls.
Right.
And then their guard hairs are even softer. It's just, they're not as wiry German Shepherd like haired as what we have here in Illinois or even in Indiana.
Right.
But definitely was an experience going out there. I want to go farther west and farther north next time. But I just haven't really lined anything up yet for this fall as far as that goes. Like I said, I'd like to go back to Nebraska, but the other side of me says I want to go look for, just explore new territory.
Sure.
Something like that. But it's always fun going to parts unknown and figuring it out and meeting new people.
The challenge of new ground and going in cold and completely new geography and maybe the grass is a little greener on the other side of the fence attitude too. That all of that just plays in, and like you said, meeting new people and that's what we've always enjoyed doing.
Yeah, it's the big change of pace for me because my schedule is full on the ADC side, and most of these properties I've been trapping them for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and you can pretty much close your eyes and say, "Yep, I'm going to catch one." I mean, it's just year after I keep records on where I catch all my coyotes, and some of those properties when you first pull into them, you set way too many traps, but you're just trying, you're fishing. You're trying to catch, figure out where you can catch them. And heck, I've got some properties whittled down now that I could go in there and set 100 traps and catch coyotes. And the next time I come back and catch them in the spots that I know I'm going to catch them and catch the same amount of coyotes.
Yeah.
It's just, you can whittle it down pretty quick as far as your locations go. But yeah, the Western type stuff and going to new places is just for the hobby side of it. And I want to say it's more relaxing, but it's not, because you end up going there and you're still in ADC mode and you're full bore going daylight to dark, and it's not very relaxing, but it's still fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of in a competition with yourself to go out there and get as much stuff done in a day's work as you can. But I'm sure I'll slow down one day, but not right now.
I've got a guy that's he's a fair amount older than me. He's in his upper 60s, and he hits it hard. And he goes, I just can't do it halfway, And if we're on a trip or whatever, it wouldn't be fun to quit at noon or 2:00 in the afternoon or 3:00 in the afternoon. You're supposed to be out till dark, and that's just the way it is. And some people probably don't look at it that way, but that really needs to, that's how we look at it as well. So
Yeah.
you said, it's supposed to be fun, but I think that is the fun, So.
Yep. And some of those ADC jobs that I have in Alabama, I've been there long enough now that I have learned to kind of tone it down a little bit, take my time and go through it. But once I get all my stuff set, a lot of, like, one day the landowner was out there and he's like, I thought you trappers woke up 4:00 in the morning and went and checked traps. And I said, well, once I get everything set, you end up catching a lot of those coyotes, especially if it's a good weather front or you get a cold snap, say in March when I'm down there. I mean, I think you catch a lot of those coyotes in the morning when they're out doing their thing. So I'll kind of back off my checking from, instead of doing it right at daylight, I'll back it up an hour or two. And, if I know that I'm not going to be checking traps until dark, mainly because I've got everything set and it's just a check day, I'll push back my check until, say 8:00 in the morning, especially on the smaller properties that I'm really trying to do some work on. And I think that helps as far as the pressure goes. You kind of let those animals do their thing. You let the deer go back to bed. You're not spooking a lot of things out. And it kind of, I think the first couple of days you go in there, you kind of mess up every animal that's there. They know you're there. They smell you. And if you kind of take that back to normal and let those traps hunt, you can catch a few more coyotes doing it that way. And a few coyotes is big on a small job. 1 or 2 coyotes can make the difference. So sometimes I think we overthink it, as far as technique and sets that we're going out and making. And like I said, with the, moving back my check time to maybe an hour or two after daylight, but we're in the business and you gotta keep an open mind with it.
So and Casey, I guess while all of this is going on, you're still putting out this Management Advantage show.
Yeah. I burned the candle at both ends. That's for sure.
So how many times have you had to upload a show while you're on the road?
Lots. I carry my laptop with me. I try to take enough content. I don't trap as much as I used to. Last January we had our first kid, had a baby girl, and I used to leave first part of January and wouldn't get home until mid-April. I wouldn't come home. I'd just 10 days here, 10 days there, 10 days there, and I would just go. And since we've had her, I've kept my really good clients, and I don't stay gone. I'll go do a 10-day job and I'll come home for 4 or 5 days, and I'll go and do that. And I've kind of got it whittled down and a lot more efficient now. But brain fart. Where was I going with that?
You're taking less jobs and trapping more efficiently, and because of your daughter. And
you asked me, what was your question? You asked me. I was going around in circles.
I don't know.
Oh man.
Oh,
Anyway.
all this time you're still putting out a show.
Yes. So, like I said, I used to leave for 3 months at a time, so I'd try to get enough content backlogged to where I'd set traps all day, get back in, eat supper, and I'd edit till midnight, go to sleep, wake up, go do it again. And like I said, now I've slowed down a little bit, and so I can kind of spread it out. But yeah, we're still putting a new show out every 2 to 3 weeks, year round, and try to keep it pertinent to the time of year. You know, if it's turkey season, we're doing turkey stuff. Deer season, we're doing deer stuff. You know, of course, trapping season, we're doing trapping stuff. I think you could do trapping stuff. I could probably do more. I hate to do things over and over again, you know. But then again, we get questions on the same things, and I know you guys probably do too. So it's, you get to a certain point, you're like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
We've done a lot of things, but I think you could. I mean, we get comments all the time like, we don't care if it's something new that you're doing, just go film you on the trap line. I'm like,
yeah,
well, we can do that. And there's so many scenarios in the trapping world, especially when you get out on an actual line. I mean, how many videos could you do on locations? I mean, you guys know as well as I do that there's a million of them. Every one of them is different, and everyone has a little story that kind of goes along with it. So I think there's enough content that's, producible for forever. You can just keep doing it.
A lot of it is going to be repetitive to a certain point, but you're right. The variation of where you're at, what you're doing, location, whatever.
Exactly.
You can change all that up. Yeah, we've had somebody will have a question in the comments below a video, and we had just covered it either that episode or the episode before. It's like, so
yep.
They either watch the whole thing or just went up and got a drink of water during that part or something. So
that's right. Or like me, as I have been producing videos, I'll learn something new and maybe something just a little bit different, or like you said, a little bit of a different variation to it, and we'll kind of change it up, but then do it all over again. But there's so many topics, there's so many things you can cover, and I think people seek out knowledge, especially in the trapping world. I mean, it's where else are you going to get it unless you know somebody you can go ride with, and I highly recommend that. But the YouTube world hits the demographic that we're after. I mean, we get so many questions from kids 12 to 14 years old, kind of just starting to get into it, and they watch the videos, and that kind of lights the fire in you to do some more. Of course, I've got a Snapchat account, and somebody added me. It's been a couple months ago now. He started talking to me, and I'm like, who is this? And he told me his name, and the more I talked to him, the more I could tell that I wasn't talking to an adult. Not, just the way he worded things and typed things out. And he was wanting to buy some bait from me. We make some coyote bait. And he's like, well, how can I pay for it? And I said, how old are you? And he's like, I'm 13. I said, I'm not going to sell you any bait. I said, give me your address and I'll send you some. I'm not going to take your money, He's like, oh, man, that's cool. So things like that just kind of revive you a little bit and kind of get you jacked up to keep on doing it.
Yeah.
So
now this gets out, and you're probably going to be giving away hundreds of jars of paint.
Well, you can sort out the people that have good intentions, and like that kid, he had no intention on asking me for free bait. He was trying to set me up with his dad's PayPal account, and I'm like, we're not going to do this. I'll send you some bait. Anything to keep it going.
Yeah.
So fun stuff. But
we better cut this off. Really sick of sitting outside, I guess.
No, I'm good. I've been enjoying the conversation. You got any concluder, Casey, that you want to say?
Well, I know we're on a Zoom call and I can see you guys right now. I'm kind of feeling sorry for you guys. You're sitting outside. And it's like 102 degrees outside.
We had a nice little rain shower, so it's not that bad actually right now, and we're in the shade.
It's pretty sticky, but it's not super bad. So
I'm recovering right now. I got up and went crappie fishing this morning, and by the time we got off the water, we were all done. So
yeah,
you're lucky you got me when you did. I was getting ready to take a nap.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah,
that's neither here nor there. But I'm glad you guys asked me to be on. It's been good talking to you.
We appreciate it. We miss seeing everybody at the conventions this summer since none of them are happening. So
have all of them been canceled?
Some of the fall ones are still out there. You know, they haven't been canceled yet. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens with them. But I think everything through August has been. So, I mean, don't quote me on that, but for the most part. So,
Yeah, I hate that none of those are happening.
Yeah.
Those are like kind of the highlight of the year. You just get to, I mean, especially in my part of, in my world, as far as the outdoor hunting industry, you know, you got the ATA show, the SHOT Show. It's just a different breed of people compared to, you know, you go to those trapping conventions and it smells like skunk and coyote urine and dead stuff, and you just got a bunch of good old people that like to have a conversation. And in today's world, that's kind of rare. And
Yeah.
being able to go to those, and I mean, still to this day, I talk about going to the Fur Takers College and talking to those people and learning from those guys. And it's a breed of people that's not around anymore. They don't make them like that anymore. And it's fun hanging out with those kind of people. Kind of gets you back down to earth.
You know, I've been helping at the Trappers College now, I think since 2013. And it's still on the slate for this year. I guess we'll have to wait and see if it actually happens. But in September, and I've said it before, you know, that's such a difficult month to get away, especially in this business, and to be gone that time of year. But it's such a good week, and it's so much fun, and the people you're around, and it's very rewarding, and you feel like you're doing a lot of good things for trapping and trappers that I find myself going back every year, you know. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about the Trappers College for sure.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I still, like I said, it's probably been 10 years, maybe 12 years since I've been to it. And,
yeah.
I mean, I still talk about that. I mean, that was a good time.
Did you go once or twice, Casey?
I think I've been to 2 of them.
Okay.
I want to say it was probably around, because Fur Takers of America used to sponsor the Management Advantage whenever we were on the Outdoor Channel.
Right.
And they had their own segment, and we filmed a lot of them at that Fur Takers College. I mean, I think that was probably 2009, 2010, somewhere around in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was Robert a instructor there when you were there?
He was.
Okay.
Yep, he was there. Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah, and just north of Fort Wayne. Yep. At the Camp Potawatomi YMCA camp. So yeah.
Yep, that's right. Good times. I still got a bunch of footage on hard drives from that.
Yeah. Kind
of neat to go back and look at that stuff.
Well, you got rare footage because they don't allow any videotaping up there. So.
Where, at the camp or
at the college? Yeah.
At the college.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good excuse.
No, you had a very good excuse. Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, man, and keep up the show and the content. I like watching it. You guys probably set the bar, in my opinion. I tell Charlie all the time, as far as editing, way it looks, the way it's produced, and all that. You guys do a really good job.
Well, I appreciate it, guys.
Hey, real quick, Casey, just tell everybody where they can watch you.
You can go on YouTube, The Management Advantage, or Facebook, of course. A lot of our content, we're putting stuff up there every day or every other day. Instagram, we got an Instagram page, or on our website at themanagementadvantage.com.
Okay, cool. They ought to be able to find you somewhere.
Yeah, we're all over the place. Never know where we're going to be.
All right. Well, we'll catch you later. Hopefully next time it's in person, and maybe do another interview.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Hopefully I've got a good story by then.
All right.